Okay, hi. So this is like my first podcast that I'm doing, and we are like winging it. So
Sure.
today we got the first guest, Josh from Sonic Titan and Dev Threats. Yeah. So that's basically your introduction, or you want to introduce a bit more about yourself.
I'm Josh. I run Dev Threats, and I have my own shirt page on Instagram called Sonic Titan VTG. So
Doing it full time, right?
more or less, I've been
More or
doing
less.
it for the last 6-7 years.
So actually, like I think the first time we met was at Dev Threats at Tai Seng there. I think I came 2018.
Yeah.
So I think that time vintage scene was quite a buzz, especially with Dev Threats being the first business that actually was quite prominent on Instagram, and with the youngsters, we have people like coming in and queuing up for the items that you'll be selling. Like, I think you all were doing more of pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Back then the scene was mostly just us and Lucams and maybe a few other stores here and there. I guess the idea that people can come and buy t-shirts that are not fast fashion and have a variety of pop culture stuff, movies, music. I think it really interests them. So I think maybe that's why it was.
I think the Friends tee, the Tommy stuff was what was really selling back then, and like the polo stuff. I think that was quite.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because we have like, I think most of the vintage scene like was why it was popping is because of Sean from Round 2.
Yeah, Sean.
The show was like 300 subscribers, and
yeah, it was pretty big. It's like what?
So actually Dev Threats and Round 2 came around the same time. It's not like y'all followed the model from. Do you say you have followed the model from Sean? Or?
Honestly, I'd say when we first started, we were inspired by Round 2 because like they were all the big pages starting to post, and then like we liked their pop culture curation, and we basically followed so long. We felt that there was a opportunity here to bring that kind of t-shirts to the Singapore market. So yeah, I'd say we were influenced by Round 2. Later on, when Sean was moving into the guest stuff as well, we were like,
they'll brought on guest stuff as well.
Exactly. We got some guest stuff here as well. I think end of the day, once you see what other markets could bring in, we also felt that there was a gap here in the Singapore market to try it out as well.
So I think so more or less it was inspired. Not really. I don't think copy is the right word, because
inspired for sure.
I think the prices that y'all put at that time was really very fair. I think it was like 40 to 30 to around 60, even for
60,
really decent stuff.
Yeah, and even for like the rare band stuff, maybe like a Metallica t-shirt, maybe put it like 100, 120 around there.
Yeah. So I think like you are definitely one of the OGs in the vintage scene in Singapore. You have seen what has started and what it is now at the moment.
I guess so. Yeah, I could say that.
So actually, like I realized like a lot of businesses have been moving online. Like Jiggy Things have been going to online. Dev Threats is going online. So may I ask, like, is it? I think Sean was said in his videos that if you have a physical store, you should be doing better. And actually, like, what was the idea behind moving to online eventually, like now at this stage for Dev Threats and like yourself, your own page, Sonic?
I think the main idea is that, it's just in general, marketing, doing business in Singapore is a little bit too small for market. So, and not everyone can make it down to the physical store. So if you can sell online, it's just another avenue. And then especially with COVID, every other businesses worldwide has also moved online to reach a bigger audience. So I think that's what we're trying to do as well.
But have you not considered like a physical as well as online, like some of the stores in Singapore?
The main reason is basically the rent nowadays in Singapore is too expensive. It's just been going up and up. So it's unsustainable for us to have another physical store. But props to all the stores that have popped up in Haji Lane. I don't know how you do it. But yeah. For Dev Threats, we just felt that not having to pay for a space would be better for us. And since we were mostly still running like monthly kind of pop-up thing, we like shame.
Yeah, because I think recently you had a pop-up at Fibers.
Yeah.
Fiction, right?
Correct. And Haji Lane. So like perhaps, in the future we'll do more pop-ups here
But
and there.
but like talking about that, like you see like so many vendors out there in one event. Like I would definitely say like if you are really into curation or you're really into like something more curated, right? You definitely go to see the dev threads hangers first and the racks first. Like will you say like dev threads still pride their curation compared to, because honestly curation is a very funny word because everyone is saying like we are thoughtfully curated.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day is like each person's curation is based on their own taste and based on what they think their customers want. So for us, like we always felt that significant culturally relevant stuff in music in film, is what we like, and we try to bring that in. Maybe some person's version of a curation is, they see that their crowd likes sports tees, college tees, and then they bring that in. I think that's also fine. I think end of the day there's enough space in the market for each different seller, to curate their own things. It just, I guess, end of the day depends on what their customers want. But I would say that,
Curation is still everyone can curate their own. Like honestly, like even unsung racks or even like very popular teas, so those very rare teas, you can do source from eBay, you can do still source from Depop or Japan's website to actually hunt. So actually when I talk about curation, it's kind of very funny to me because whatever I can do, right, someone else can do it. But I know what you mean, but curation can be like spending time to actually really find a piece that it really suits the page direction.
I guess at the end of the day, like to me, I view curation as taste lah. It just depends on what your taste is for. But I can respect your taste, but I might not mess with it, and that's fine also. But it's like my kind of taste and the people that I like follow and online everything is just catered to my own kind of what I like. So I guess it just depends on what
what the seller like. But like I think when I went to certain vintage stores and it says it's a vintage store, yet we have items that are not really, but we're talking about we'll talk about the single stage, double stage thing later, but it's more of like vintage is not really about 90s and 80s anymore, like 2000s.
It's more to like a lot of Y2K stuff really.
Actually, that is to the point of like the scene in Asia. You mentioned the stores that are really big in Haji Lane or like have a curation, and we have a lot of online sellers on Carousel. Yeah, so actually, like I would say the scene is really like
changing quite fast.
Yeah, and everyone's dream as a youngster now is to have a vintage store in Queensway or like a vintage store in Haji Lane. Yeah, and having online big following on Instagram, like some of the pages in Singapore, like we do like have a mystery box and stuff like that. Actually, is the scene too saturated or like it's lost its special touch? Because it used to be vintage is like more underground, like not everyone can have the same vintage tea, but now it's still, you can't really find the exact same one from someone else who bought it.
But in general, like you're saying that you see a lot of people wearing Harley Davidson t-shirts now, and then it gets kind of like stale from your point of view, something like that. Well, I guess in terms of all of this, people can always find what they want, but I mean, like me personally, I definitely think it's getting stale as well. But end of the day, kids will always have a certain budget they can spend. The reason why maybe they can't find more obscure
rare pieces.
Rare pieces is basically
they don't have
prices have gone up.
The budget.
Exactly, they don't have budget to find something like that to bring it in and maybe to flip it again. And it's just the way the whole worldwide market is nowadays. The reason why, like I said, people bring in like college teas, sports teas, is just because they are so much more plentiful, and the real collectors don't really care about them. So I guess the lay person can bring these in for their own customers, but like the niche stuff, there is a big collector market around them worldwide. So
like yourself, you run a more curated band teas, rarer stuff. It's more of like you operate in a market that's different from I would say 80% or 75% of sellers in Singapore really go about the fast in, fast out way. Like I buy it for 30, I sell it for 40, 50, and then you try to move it very fast. But yeah, then that is 80% of what everyone is doing. So I think that's my own point of view also, that the market is really like quite
saturated.
Yeah, it's very like everyone's dream is to have a vintage store. But then like you mentioned about why they've actually moved online, because there's a rising rent. So actually I think to me the scene in Singapore is really like quite boring already lah. I would say it's boring because like on Carousel you have like so many different sellers already.
Every single day you scroll through, it's all the same items. Right?
Like I don't know, it's just something that's very actually it's good for consumers because that's when prices drop down lah.
Yeah, I guess from a consumer standpoint also, it really depends on what they personally want. If they let's say they literally only have a budget of $50 and they just want to wear a thrifted shirt. Yeah, there's so many designs out there, right? So, it just depends on what kind of graphic you want on your shirt, lor. So if you, like I say, if you want something more, if you want an actual vintage item, then, and you want something maybe pop culture, movie, band related, you'd have to, it might not be in your budget, lor. Maybe that's why you go towards something that's like a simple Nike college t-shirt instead.
Understand.
So
but it's sort of like there's a good and bad lah. Like, but do you think as a seller like yourself, does the scene in Singapore? I understand we talk about your overseas client later, but it's more of like, does it really affect your business model? Because now that you can't really, not say you can't compete, but it wouldn't make sense for you to buy a normal college day anymore and then put it on Death Threads or you put it on your page. It's more of like you are very. It doesn't really affect your business model for Sonic and Death Threads.
Yeah, I mean, like if we were to talk about college tees, I personally wouldn't bring any of those in because I don't care of those kind of styles. But like if other sellers want to bring them in, like so be it. But I personally, it's not.
Doesn't really not say affect, but it's not competition. There's no. You are more of in like your own.
End of the day, I guess the competition would be aiming to like which of the like the general audience in Singapore would want our stuff compared to other people's stuff. It's just, I think at the end of the day, it's just budget and taste lah. Like I said,
I'm not saying like we should. There's no bad image on wanting to have a vintage store or vintage page. It's like, of course, it's good for consumers, like I said, and then to sellers, it's like you have to improve your curation to stand out from the rest of your competitors. So I wouldn't say like my view on the vintage scene is saturated. Don't care whether it's saturated. Don't care whether it's like too boring or something. It's ultimately I think it's healthy competition now because it does make the sellers try to push up their game into creating something much more different now.
I suppose. But honestly, I mean, that's just mostly scrolling through local pages. I do get bored very fast. Like it's a lot of same.
But I think maybe it's because your taste and normal people's taste is a bit different from a vintage problem. Because vintage, like you ask a like university student or a poly student, or like they would go for some Nike tee or some vintage pop culture tee that's $50, $60. But to you, it's but.
I guess I
to each his own. To each his own.
Yeah, to each their own. But like you said, I guess to me personally, I go for the things that are rarer that I know.
It's truly vintage. You want to have a history, like you perform in certain concert.
I suppose. Basically those kind of stuff, and also it's nice to know that I have something that not too many people out there will have. It's just my own taste.
So that's something before we actually recorded this, we talked about overseas clients. So. I understand that you have something you want to share about your overseas experience compared to Singapore experience.
I suppose for example, my own personal page, Sonic Titan, the audience is mostly overseas, and like that's sort of my avenue to push higher tier t-shirts that sell for more, like to sell overseas, because I know that locally no one, or like very few people would spend that kind of money just based on how the scene is nowadays. Like we were talking about how in general you wouldn't want to spend too much because they're based on the budget lah. So I'm like, okay, it's fine. I can always sell the stuff that we curate overseas as well. That's where my other page comes in. That's where I reach out to the overseas market. But at the end of the day, everyone's on Instagram nowadays. It's a worldwide thing, not just in Singapore.
And then you have certain following on your page and stuff like that that you
Yeah.
actually build. I think since dev threads already it
It's
was like
like-
cause of dev.
Concurrent,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. So it's more of like, yeah, I think everyone knows like if you want the rarer stuff, you want the more unique stuff or like a memorabilia for a certain concert for a certain band. It's something that cause of dev will offer compared to dev threads.
I suppose so, but also I need to prefix this that the reason why I have this separate page is mostly my own personal taste for the longest time is a lot of metal t-shirts. So like my own personal page is mostly metal t-shirts, hard music, punk, anime stuff. So it's not say I cover all sorts of high value, worldwide stuff. It's not like I have too many grunge stuff or like other kinds of movie tees, for example. Like, it's still kind of small. It's not like I'm having like an actual storefront kind of big range of t-shirts lah. But I guess for what I create, the people that I know that come to me, I can still sell to them lah. And like if you want to talk about like overseas clients also, yeah, dev threads also, but also through my own page. I can sell to Indonesians, Filipinos, and it's funny also how if you want to talk about overseas clients, also, it's funny how to see that. Yeah, Singapore might have started like vintage t-shirts, for example, back in like when we started 2017, 2018. Back then, like the Philippine market, Indonesian market was dead. Like they were collectors, but they
those those very vintage person like.
Yeah, I mean they were definitely OGs in the scene, but like in general, it didn't blow up. You know how the Indonesian market blew up? Sean Waterspoon visited there in 2019. This like is basically the version of
Thrift Corner
or Thrift Corner. It's like Urban Sneaker Society in 2019. Sean visited there and it blew up. And it's mostly Jakarta people and all that. Then from there, then that's when they realize, the potential of standing out from the crowd, not wearing normal streetwear shirt, going into vintage. And that's where there was a big influx.
Yeah, Sean is just doing his thing. I think he's really like not at the vintage scene. He's kind of like
he's definitely moved on already. And I respect that because at the end of the day, you can't get stuck in just selling.
I think he just let. I think he let you, Chris, and I think Luke left already and stuff that doing their own thing. So yeah, I think it's not saying like it's a bit kind of like hard work to actually create stuff. And I don't know, but I do think it's like hard, like tiring to run a like curated page.
I think the hardest part about all that is, like I said, it's just down to how much can you get something for. And having more competition is always harder to get that lah.
Like someone will offer you higher those like.
No, like in terms of like you buying something to have it on your page for the curation, like it's harder to buy something when other people also looking for it, and then it's hard to find it at the price point that you want to pay for it lah.
It's just about basically it's a networking, like who you have your regular, like you build a trust with a seller, then you can actually curate stuff and make a profit of it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, end of the day, I guess this whole thing is about connections lah.
Yeah, so actually overseas, speaking of overseas, there's more manual work that you do. You need to ship it out, you need to post on Instagram, you need to reply comments. It's not really of like a web store that you click. So actually, have you ever thought of like running your own website because I feel like it's like you have to reply to, like they'll ask you a condition, then they ask for more pictures.
Honestly though, like I get where you're coming from with all that, but I feel like with the whole idea of vintage, because each piece is generally, I mean, yeah, you can say the flaws of how it looks like on the website, and that works for some people, but other times also, like you need personal touch. I guess.
I know.
People always
like,
ask more questions.
Then you can.
It's
something about, I would say it's about the Loop Guns thing where they really pride on customer service. Of course, they also pride on their items. I feel like, speaking of Loop Guns, I think they have improved like significantly. Yeah, but it's more of like I don't know what you mean. Like you don't want to be just like. Actually, it's quite. Do you find it enjoyable to like talk to people about the piece history? But if they ask not like you go and purposely like they PM you, then they message 10 points about why this t-shirt is.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I do enjoy replying people and all that. Obviously, when it comes to TS and all that, you always get a lot of people asking questions, but they're not replying at the end of the day lah.
They just
there'll be the flickers and all
you
that. Yeah, I mean, it is understandable lah. It's like that for any online seller-buyer situation. It's not just related to vintage. It's just how it is in the market.
But long term, we talk about long term also, but it's more of like replying. Actually, through this conversation, it's kind of like know more people. You build a relationship. Then So I want to say it's.
End of the day, it's about building relationships.
Yeah, it's building relationship. It's less important in business. Okay, so actually, that's speaking about that. So, are you comfortable talking about the future of death threats and your own Sonic page? Like, do you still want to? So, as you mentioned, most of your sales is from overseas, then and stuff like that.
I see the future of death threats currently it's not too clear because mainly it's mostly me running it now. Dion's doing his own children thing, John's doing his own designer thing, Justin started a new job. So I guess right now it's like up to me to decide which direction to use death threats for. But I guess for now the current plan is I still have stuff to sell, and these two pages are like my platforms to move stuff So I'm okay with that, but in terms of maybe long term doing a store, I'm not sure. I'm sure the page is still there. Whenever I post something in the story, there's still views and all that. So it's just don't have concrete plans yet, basically.
Okay, I understand. Okay. So any exciting projects that you have been working on? Like I understand like some vintage, like Jesus Tees, they make some of their own merch and stuff like that. I know Death Trap used to sell merch also, like slides and stuff like that. So is there any? I think your brand. I think you mentioned that
we've run our course with the design. It'd be cool to make more designs and everything, but I feel like that one also you need your own connection, production and everything. So I think it was fun while we did all those designs.
It was really like I think like a lot of rappers in Singapore pop stars. I don't know like those superstars in Singapore, they were like rapping. I think Lion City Boy was wearing your slides.
He was wearing a few.
That was I think that was like cool. But at the moment the direction is not really clear. Like you still have to take time to think.
Yeah, correct. Those were fun back in the day, but I guess those are all you need like long term planning to make your own merch and everything. So I guess what we created was fun, good memory, but no current plans on continuing this.
So I think Sonic Titans also mentioned that you still be on the Instagram platform. Any like website in the future?
For my own personal page, Sonic Titan, definitely not. I don't feel a need for a web store.
I think website it's like $30 per month and stuff.
Shopify, basically. I think
then you have to pay certain charges for cards and stuff like
that. I think right now it's about 8% or something. Cut. Then like each month they still bill us like $30-$40.
Yes. Actually, like it's very hard to. It's very hard to run a vintage page really like
even if you set up a web store, right? You still you have the link to your IG and all that, right? So you still need to make people visit it often. So you still need to post something on your social media anyways, right? Either a story or page or whatever to get people to check out. So end of the day, I feel like it's just maybe the web store is just there for people to check out and pay easier. But end of the day, I feel like I could always still send over my paper and they can send it over. So it's that's kind of why I'm resistant towards the web store. And I mean, I guess to be fair, to be completely frank, last time when we first created the web store, we had some sales and everything, but then the rest of the time I had to push through IG to pay now me direct, that kind of thing. And to secure sales.
Actually, web store
I get it. Some people think that it looks
easier,
and easier. And I see some big stores, they do have web stores, and it works like they hype the drop, and then
sold out in like 5 minutes or something like that.
It's not about the selling out, but they hype it out, and then we were trying to do that also when we were first opening website. But I guess it just maybe people's taste have moved on as well. So it's only certain items that out of like the 50 that we dropped that like sold. So like I said, I needed to do more story sales to push the rest of the stuff. So it just depends.
It becomes very tiring. You have to push two things like website you have to push, then your own post you have to push, sort of thing.
Basically something like that.
Actually, have you thought like using influencers or like people to. I'm talking about marketing. I think marketing is very important in running a business, or especially a clothing business.
Us personally, we haven't thought about that, but I see new up and coming stores do that. And to be fair, yeah, it's very important to incorporate that, especially tying into TikTok as well and doing ads and
yeah, TikTok is really the thing. Especially now there's a TikTok shop also, right? They can just shop it off.
That's why as well. Yeah. I mean, I think about it, like, every time sometimes I look at the new stores at VTG, right?
Yeah.
Plot Apparel, for example, how did they blow up so quickly? I think it's just a mix of, TikTok having influencer friends, model their clothing, everything. And they've grown super quickly. They're like, 20 plus K.
Actually, sometimes it's because more of like, will you ever think of, okay, for business, I'm going to do this, for business, I'm going to do that. So even though I don't want to do it, or like you don't want to do TikTok, or you don't want to like that, or ever like on the TikTok just to sell
No, but you don't have to do that now. TikTok, like you don't have to do a dance or whatever. But I would say that even though I'm personally resistant towards it, I do acknowledge that it's a very big part of marketing right now. It's must do, basically.
Yeah, must.
It's the reach that TikTok has compared to IG is
I think now it becomes TikTok.
Majority of people nowadays use TikTok to keep up with stuff, and plus if they scroll and they see a video on there's a new store, it's not just static pictures. There's a new, so I guess they get sucked into looking like you can see how it looks through a video compared to scrolling through IG and all that.
Yeah, so I think to all budding businesses there, use TikTok from Josh. That's Josh's advice.
Yeah, I guess so. I've lost I missed out on the race, man, with TikTok, but you guys can still go ahead with that.
So actually, like, speaking of vintage, like, I understand it's like $1 billion industry, like 10 or 50 already. So, do you think like vintage will still be there in the next 3 years?
I say definitely, but like I said, what I'm talking about in terms of my vintage is very, very small seen in the whole general vintage scene. There's so much that is not just t-shirts, there's like which is why the scene,
jackets, jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what other stores locally are also bringing in. But and that's great. Like and that's why there's so much variety here in Singapore and overseas as well, because like you can get used items, basically all kinds, tops, bottoms, outerwear, accessories, and it will. I feel like it will continue growing, and then even with different eras also. Right now it's like Y2K is very big, but there's always be another
change,
like maybe the 70s or the 50s or the 60s.
I think that's, speaking about 50s and 70s, it's more of like those champion from the really 50s and stuff like that.
Wear a lot of old school wear.
Chore jackets and stuff like that. But I feel that kind of like went up for like a few months and it just disappeared already. Right?
I mean, I guess there will still be people who like that style, but at the same time, like I said, Y2K is very big and accessible.
Yeah, Y2K is really like those baby tees and like those Britney Spears, whatever, those stuff.
Or like the baggy fits and the skater tees and the jorts and all that. Yeah.
Jorts. Yeah. I think like Mark Baudelaire, right? Is it the guy from US or not? The one with jorts.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, like jorts are very popular right now, and I mean, to be fair, I'm kind of a fan of them also.
Actually, jorts to me, I think it's okay like, because I still like to wear
above the knee.
Yeah, but sometimes I do like to wear at the knee also it's okay but yeah, I think jorts is.
At the end of the day, it's just people. There always each year there always
trend changes
Yeah, I mean there'll be trend changes, but there will always be people experimenting with their own style.
Then it becomes like what piece get more popular than you.
Yeah, like just people playing
around. But do you think it's good for a brand to, or like a vintage store to stick to just like, okay, I'm just going to do this, like for you it's like I'm just going to will you change? It has to change, right?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a store, not even just vintage, just a store in general needs to keep up with the times, and just limiting yourself to just one particular item is definitely restricting and I acknowledge that that's one of the faults of against the Curation. We try pushing in other stuff a little bit here and there, but
I think the chore jackets, the military wear.
Yeah, but it's a little bit hard. It just depends on, even if we do post them, whether the people want to buy them or not. So but I would say that
be flexible,
be flexible.
because it has to change. It's not of like maybe if you're like unsound right, speaking about unsound right, it's that they can literally just have faded black t-shirts for days to come or like
Yeah.
But I don't think they sell those trendy stuff. It's more like I'm just gonna sell faded black tees and rare tees. Anyway, like speaking of overseas clients, I think overseas in US it's more of like they can pay for the more expensive. Like they can pay like 100 SGD for just a t-shirt that sells in Singapore for like 30 or 40. So
No, but I guess my question to you is, why do you think that the Americans have that kind of mentality in Singapore as well? Wouldn't you say that in general Singaporeans are also come off? Right. So why do you think?
actually I don't know why because to me also I can't really justify spending more than 50 or 60 for a t-shirt. That's my own thing. Because I like I told you I was very upfront with you, like when I bought the stuff off you, I can't really justify. It's not my thing. But if you tell me I buy a pair of pants that have like flare or something, then 200-300, I'm like, okay, let's do it. But I don't know that's for t-shirt. It's just my own thing. But I think that's a very good question for the viewers as well. Like Singapore is well-off country, America is also well-off country. So why Americans can pay 100 and Singapore they don't want to pay above 30? Is it like a kiasu thing or like what's your answer to that question?
I mean, I don't exactly have an answer for it. I have speculation. I feel that maybe in general, Singaporeans' mindset is generally still, we might have wealth, but in order to showcase that wealth, we need to have brand new items from brands. Like Singapore is very brand
oriented.
Yeah, exactly. So
they will pay $100 made in China pesos plus pesos, and they don't want to pay like 100 for maybe a 90s curated tee or long sleeve or jacket.
Yeah, because I guess I mean, to me, it still makes sense. They can't justify why something with history would be maybe the same value or cost.
Yeah, actually, that's a really freaking good question. I didn't expect that. But because but why they can buy they can go to a club and spend $150, $200 drinks, or then they pay $50 grab home at 4 a.m. Then they come to a vintage store, then they $40, okay, move on. I want to buy a $30 t-shirt. And then it's like curated, and then they come into that space knowing it's going to be.
And they come into the space not only that, they come into the space wearing Balenciaga, knowing that they can spend the money, but they don't want to buy on vintage. But I get it, because at the end of the day, people just want to dress to impress. And they want other people to know, look, what I'm wearing is expensive, I have expensive taste. But if you wear something that's niche,
have holes,
or not even, maybe okay, with holes, the condition is one thing, but if it's something niche, and then it's just a very, no one will know straight away, you're wearing something expensive, that kind of thing.
So it's more of Singaporeans are very.
I wouldn't say Singaporeans, but I guess in general also in the whole also there's just in general more people who want to.
I think it's is it like an Asian thing? Because Asian, I always just told my friends sometimes I say, wow, Uniqlo t-shirt is 1990. But to me, then I see my parents wearing a $2 t-shirt, $3 shorts, and $5 slipper. It's to that question answer is more of I think it's the Asian mentality or Chinese mentality. It's they want to save up, then they their parents wear this already, so they don't it's just they can't spend. But I know, but it's very contradicting. Then why can they spend 1K on a Balenciaga shoe or a Chanel bag for 3-4K? But that's a very good question for that.
I guess at the end of the day, it just depends. Certain stuff is all statement pieces. Sometimes I see people doing fit checks and everything, and then how much is it? How much is it?
How much is it?
I mean, at the end of the day, the youth in general, they will have some item on their body that would cost more and understandable. Whether it will still be a handbag, whether it be shoes, or something like that. But other things they can find cheap still from Shein. I'm wearing Shein.
It's they buy those Metallica t-shirt from H&M rather than real. But I understand.
I think at the end of the day, it's still fine. They can still wear whatever they want, and it still looks good on them. And I think as long as it looks good and they feel good, that's the most important.
Okay, so speaking about fit check and stuff like that, so for a vintage seller like yourself, it's your day-to-day dressing is more of I mentioned, I think when we met up, we also mentioned you like shorts and stuff like that.
Yeah, mainly for Singapore.
So it's just shorts. Singapore's still hot. I think it's really that I'm also wearing shorts most of the time.
I don't exactly have a style. I guess my own style is mostly I've been to wearing oversized tees XL for years really, just because it's a comfy look. And then I'd say I'm personally also leaning more towards like baggy clothing right now. Like for longest time I've been wearing let's say
Normal fitted
like
stuff.
normal fitted or like slightly looser but above knee cut shorts. Now I'm open to the idea of wearing baggy bottoms and all that. It's just like right now the weather's not, I can't do it, man.
And okay, what do you think about people wearing varsity jacket in Singapore? Like,
I mean, it looks good on them. They got the drip.
they got a drip, but it's just like really like can.
I can't put
they're
myself.
they're suffering. They're really
Exactly.
suffering. They're really
But
suffering.
end of the day, like I say,
It looks good,
it goes back to
looks good.
it looks good, and then they can sweat all they want, but if they feel good in their drip, great for them lah. I gotta give them props because I know I can't do it, but if they can do it, good for them.
I think like bomber jacket. Also, I've seen some people wearing like trench coat in Singapore, like
Layering and all that things. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it, but if they they can take it.
So like your dressing is usually like a vintage baggy top.
And
Jorts.
bottoms.
Now you're experimenting with jorts.
Yeah, I like jorts.
Above the knee.
I have
below the knee.
I have a few long pants, like baggy pants and stuff, but Singapore weather really cannot. I cannot do it. So
put some holes in them, or like I don't know, at least stress it.
Maybe I'm looking more into I don't know. I want to get some like lightweight cargos or something.
I think those like with the pockets, like the multiple pockets.
Recently Shane had a
Shane is shout out to Shane.
he did his clearance things on Chera. I was looking at the
Long pants
Chera long pants, but then I think XL sold out, so I didn't get it.
But it's stretchy waist, like you really can stretch. Huh?
I mean, do you have any? I didn't get.
I didn't, but ask Shane about it.
I haven't got. Yeah, I mean, last time I got this Chera cargos, but it was a size L, which is alright, but I guess I just wanted a baggy fit, but XL sold out, so it's fine. But yeah, I mean something like that. I'm in the market to look for something like that.
I think Shane's items are quite good, like the design. I think the material is quite good. Like we felt it at the Spectrum second episode. I felt it at the second anniversary, and I thought it was quite okay materials, like quite lightweight and stuff like that. But you can try it out lah. Like, but is it still on sale and stuff like that?
Nah, it was just over the National Day weekend or something like that. Yeah. But it's okay lah. Like I said, I mean something that can have that look, but material matters lah. In Singapore,
like really has to be fabric, has to be lightweight,
breathable or lightweight or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think before we actually recorded this, you asked me what's EF, so environmentally friendly. I think a lot of vintage pages are trying to promote their vintage business through the aspect of environmentally friendly, second-hand, reuse and stuff like that. So to me, I answer my question is quite bullshit lah. Basically, I think it's quite that direction. It's not really truly environmental. But you can just say like, if you buy a brand new tea, you still have to go through shipping and bagging and packaging. But
I guess the idea is that if you buy something brand new, right, the whole production process from that,
it's like creating more waste.
Yeah. So whereas if you buy something secondhand, you're not creating something new, but the issue that I have, I guess, I understand where I come from with the packaging and all that, but I guess at the end of the day, you buy something brand new or you buy something used, there'll still be the shipment cost and all that. So I guess it's more or less the same, but I guess the issue that I have with, I guess, not just vintage in general, but it's more like Singapore's scene, which is like the thrift scene, is that so many shops bring in so many items, and if they don't sell them, what do? They still have to throw them away.
They throw them away?
Yeah.
At where? I will pick them up.
The
secret location is going to be like beep out.
I honestly don't know where, but this is from what I've heard from another big store.
But I really saw like they really can bring in bales from US.
Yeah, but see, think about it. Okay, you bring in a bale, that's like 100 kg, that's like 200 items. You sell 1/4 of them, let's say you can sell lah. Then let's say 3/4 you cannot sell, what do? You cut until $1 if no one wants to buy, then how? No one wants to buy, you still have to clear it end of the day to bring in more stock, right? If not, then you store. So what do you do when you clear it? You have to throw them away. So you think about all the waste of
I didn't expect throwaways. I thought it was just like clearance or like $5, $2.
Yeah, but okay,
even if they sell $1, people might not buy that one.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, you can cut as low as you want. You can give it for 1 cent, whatever. But if no one buys and your store is still filled with old stuff,
you need to clear it.
Yeah, so you gotta clear it. So what are you gonna do?
Damn, that is the harsh reality.
There's so much items, that's the issue with thrifting. Like you can make your money with like the top 10%, 20% of what you bring in, sure. And then like what you do with 80%, there's a lot of waste.
Damn, that is a real shocking news to me. I never
You never thought of the
expected
angle, right?
that angle. I always thought like, okay lah, they sell for like $5, $10 lah, those clearance item then, but what, 3/4 of 100 kg?
I mean, I don't
I don't know,
exactly know
the figures might not be, but it's just a rough
idea of it, right?
like the
Exactly.
whole idea. Yeah, I think that's
it's crazy. So you think of all the restocks that a lot of stores have. Yeah, sure, you have a lot of restock. What if I say about those stock?
do they like give you the Salvation Army or something?
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Most of
smaller
them might
stores,
do that
maybe
lah.
smaller stores will do that lah. Like let's say online.
Then you have to
stores.
drive. You
No,
have to
I think the driving part is not really the issue lah. Sure, you have a lot of waste. Yeah, you give it off to the Salvation Army, sure. Okay, but that's like an online seller or something. If you have a store, then how? You have a store, you're bringing so much more items. Then you have to literally fill your whole car with stuff and do multiple trips. I don't know, something like that.
It's very shocking.
So end of the day, I guess what happens to those clothes that even the shop cannot move, they will probably have to send it to another waste fabric place where they will bundle it up and ship it off to another country.
Then another seller does the same thing in another country again. Then
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so the vintage industry value is, because that's the next point lah. It's more of like that point that we covered, like environmentally friendly and stuff like that. So, but it's still definitely more sustainable than, I don't know. I really don't have the answers.
I guess it is still better than like creating
Like brand new t-shirt and
I suppose like the production. It is still better than that, but I guess from the waste side, it might be growing. Although I don't have the figures, like just a hunch. I don't know if it's growing. I think in the grand scheme, I think it's not really growing. Like, it's still a very small. Like second hand is still a small fashion scene.
It's not like $1 trillion. There should be 50 billion or 100 billion.
Exactly. But still in general, still nothing compared to like machine and fast fashion.
Okay, I think we can wrap on to the last point. So if you see like, not only Singapore is opening stores, like you mentioned Indonesia, Thailand, and stuff like that. So actually for this is advice to like those people starting their own vintage page or vintage stores lah. So like, how do you have any advice for them? Like, how do they stand out? Like, how can they make it out financially? Do you have like a rough idea? Like, maybe like just 2-3 points, like how they can actually make the page run better. Like, because like a lot of youngsters now are doing it, then you're like kind of like the OG and stuff like that.
I guess at the end of the day, most important thing is still networking and making connections. Like suppose if you're a new store, you maybe what you can do is reach out to bigger stores and see if they want to repost your stuff, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, IG works is all about sharing and resharing, right? But I guess what you could do is reach out to others, and then maybe decide what kind of stuff you want to curate. I guess like, do you want to be the same out of so many other stores that always get the same stuff, or if you want to try a new angle?
But like also there's curation, like you say, it's just personal taste, but how can your personal taste be like one of one or maybe one of three in the whole country that not many people are doing it? Like everyone is saying like, oh, we actually follow the ensemble rank, or actually we follow the faded back, or we follow left transport culture, or look gums, or like, yeah. So what is truly like standing out in vintage scene mean like? But I understand you mentioned it's sort of like own personal taste and what you want to sell as a shop or like as a business, but like, yeah, what can you truly? That was the secret to actually making your curation really be like more like one of or like be very unique. It's a very tough question.
Yeah, I personally don't even think that my curation is unique or anything. Like in where, like for example, like I said, I curate metal keys. And even like the amount of pages that curate only metal keys, I can think of like 20, 30, 40. Like, so end of the day, it just, like I say, it's just all about your own taste lah. I don't think I'm that special in like whole. I think there's like other pages with even rarer stuff than me for sure. So, I mean, it's just end of the day, it comes more of I'm talking from a collector's point of view lah.
Yeah,
the store, I guess that's a little bit different lah. But yeah lah, I'm just talking from a collector's mindset lah. I guess it's kind of hard to stand out when there's so many different stores that are You're doing the same thing.
Actually, like you
So-
mentioned, you may not be the best, but you're not you can be good. You don't need to be the best, but you can be good and still build a community around.
End of the day, I guess, yeah, like you were saying, a lot of people aspire to run their own store, right? Maybe just have fun and go with it and see where it goes from. You can always be a small fish in a big pond and then see where it can go from there. End of the day, it's about networking. I feel like what the Fibrous team are doing with like the stores that they always pop up together. I think like that's what they're doing a nice job supporting smaller up and coming stores, hosting them. Maybe that's what you could do, is to link up with other stores and do events together.
I think one of the events that I personally did was for when I had my brand like Lee's Grid was with Space Room. I think it's more like, I don't know, but to me it has to earn money, so that's my point of view lah. So for like a certain amount of money that I was comfortable, I will manage to put my own products at Space Room. Then some moves and something, but I understand it's just like my first trial there. So I think the advice is don't expect it to move too fast.
Yeah, I guess
initially.
that's also true.
It has to be like Death Threat's not. There was like some pop up. Was it a pop up like initially?
It's just build momentum.
It's just a bit of momentum. It's not like, okay, I put 40 t-shirts, 30 will sell at the end of the month or something.
Yeah.
So it's more of, to me, my advice is more of like, start with a realistic expectation.
I guess, yeah.
Then try to be more curated. Like, I don't know whether it's the right word also, but it's more like have your own personal taste that suits what you like to sell and what people want to buy. I think what people want to buy is quite
People will gravitate to you if
there's a whole
if they know
direction.
basically. Yeah. I guess if you want to bring in what you like, you will always find the people that are looking for what you have. Yeah. If you have something that everyone else has, why would someone put you with the other people?
And then they might be cheaper, and Carousel is cheaper. So thank you so much, Josh, for coming on the podcast. This is the first guest. So peace. Yes.